Hello and welcome one and all to the First Congregational Church of Brimfield in Brimfield, Massachusetts. I am Pastor Dawn Adams, and this is not normally how we meet, but how we, like you, are dealing with the recommendations and requirements of state and local officials. With that having been said, I want to let you know that I am here alone with my husband, and we encourage you as well to follow the rules of physical distancing and limited gathering sizes. This church itself actually has a story in its past. After it had burned down, when they rebuilt the building, they put up a plaque that said, "We believe in God," and we installed a lightning rod. So please be safe. All face-to-face activities here at the church are canceled, but that doesn't mean that we aren't gathering for church. In fact, today at 11 a.m., we invite our children to join us for a Sunday school lesson on Zoom. Invitations have already been sent out via email. Open to everyone is prayer time on Wednesday at 10, Lenten dinners Thursday at 6, and a Friday morning breakfast at 8. All of these occur on Zoom, and so if you're interested in joining us, send a message to the church and we'll give you the code to enter in. Additionally, we offer a Bible study that you can do at your own pace through Google Classrooms. And as for worship, you found us right here on Facebook Live. There are also Instagram prayers and Facebook Live moments of peace, and we even now have a YouTube channel. We invite and encourage everyone to be socially connected. No one should feel alone at this time. I also want to mention that if you are so inclined and moved by this service, that we invite you to text a donation to 413-344-2323. Again, 413-344-2323. With all of that said, let's take a moment to prepare ourselves for worship. Let's take a breath. Let's let our body and mind come together. Let's feel the presence of each other in this world. Let's let God's holy blessing pour upon us. Let us be at one in peace and in prayer. Let us begin worship. Remember, you are water, soothing, cleansing, strong. Remember that you are fire, smoldering, bright, and vibrant. Remember that you are air, swift, flowing, musical. Remember that you are earth, rich, grounded, mighty. Remember that you are spirit, creative, present, inspirational. let us join together in prayer. O loving God, you truly are the great shepherd, the one who watches over the flock with attentiveness and care. As you have already seen, we are in disarray and trouble. We are lost. Come and seek us out. Gather us together. Save us from harm. Bring us back into the fold. We ask this for all your sheep, those that are sick, those that are working harder than ever, keeping everything functioning, those that are at home with endless hours before them, those that are working from home, those with the children and families at home, those without a home, those who are incarcerated or detained, those around this entire globe. Let us hear your call. Help us find the path back and seek out those who cannot follow or cannot hear. Protect us all. We ask this all in the name of your Son, who you sent to this earth, Jesus Christ, who taught us to pray together, saying, Our Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Here I offer you a short prayer of transformation that I have adapted from the writings of Scottish priest George MacLeod. I invite you to repeat after me. We are your body. If every wall in the world shall crumble, and every church decay, we are your habitation. Nearer are you than breathing, closer than hands and feet. Our eyes are the eyes with which you in mystery look out with compassion upon the world. So we bless you for reminding us that we are not a place, for directing us to the work that needs to be done, for redeeming us and indwelling within us. We bless you for making us not a building, but a people. Amen. Hear now our reading from the Hebrew Testament, the book of Job, chapter 38, verses 1 through 27. Then the Lord answered Job out of a whirlwind. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Or where were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstones when the morning star sang together and all heavenly beings shouted for joy? Or who shut the seas with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come, no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stopped. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, so that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked shall be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and it is dyed like a garment. Light is withheld from the wicked, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of the death been revealed to you, or have you even seen the deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all of this. Where is the way of the dwelling of the light, and where is the place of darkness, that you might take it to its territory, that you may discern its path to its home? Surely you know, for you were born then, and the number of your days are great. Have you entered the storehouses of snow? Or have you seen the storehouses of hail, which I reserve for the times of trouble, for the days of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cut the channel for the torrents of rain, and the way of the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no one lives, on the desert which is empty of human life, to satisfy the wasted and desolate land, and to make the ground put forth grass? Here ends our reading. May God add to our understanding. Thanks be to God. And so now I offer a prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. During times such as these, it is normal for us to wonder why. It is normal for our brains to try to create logic in an illogical world. And it is even easy to begin to fall into the traps of guilt and blame. For some, it is times like these that make them wonder or confirm to them that there is no such thing as God. For some, it causes them to cling to God in unhealthy and troubling ways. It is during these times that, along with everything going on in the outside world, we are simultaneously called to do some interior work and reconsider our understanding of God and how God intercedes in our lives and in the world around us. It is times like these that I hear over and over from people, why? Why is this happening? Why is God doing this to me and to us? Where is God? And this is what I want to talk to you about today. I want to start with a reading that can be found in the book by Rabbi Harold Kushner. The book is called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it is a piece from a survivor of the Auschwitz death camp in Germany. It says, "It never occurred to me to question God's doings or lack of doings when I was an inmate at Auschwitz, although of course I understood that others did. I was no less or no more religious because of what the Nazis did to us, and I believe my faith in God was not undermined in the least. It never occurred to me to associate the calamity that we were experiencing with God, to blame him or believe in him less, or cease believing in him at all because he didn't come to our aid. God doesn't owe us that or anything. We owe our lives to him. If someone believed that God is responsible for the death of 6 million because he didn't somehow do something to save him, he's got his thinking reversed. We owe God our lives for the few or the many years that we live. And we have the duty to worship him and do as he commands us. That's what we're here for on earth, to be in God's service and to do God's bidding. We should hear and heed these words from ages past and learn from them. So often we refer to God using words like Savior, Protector, king. We equate God to a shield, a rock, fire, a stronghold. We take our strength from our visions of God's strength. But God is more than that. I remember when I was a young child in Sunday school being taught these words, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. They related an idea that God was everywhere and could do all things and knew all things and was, I guess, in my childish mind, a superhero of the universe. And while I'm still in awe of all that God is and of all the ways that God works, I realize that truly God's ways are beyond our understanding. That while I am comforted by calling God all-powerful, all-knowing, and almighty, this is just one perspective of God's whole being. I realize that in my desire to understand God, I am sometimes simplifying the complex, reducing reality into digestible bits that doesn't really do God or I any good. The book of Isaiah repeats to us that God's ways are not our ways. As we grapple with what that means, we have to let go of some old meanings and understandings and consider new possibilities of who God is and how God works in this world. Because it has become clear over time that God has set up the universe and the individuals in it to work on principles that we don't fully understand. That even though we make scientific breakthroughs every day, we still do not have a complete picture. It is apparent that at some level, God has given the universe and humans some self-determination, some self-will, some ability whereby choice can have unexpected outcomes. It is clear that God both participates in the world and also withholds. Why? We do not know. We no longer think that lightning or thunder is caused by God throwing thunderbolts from heaven, or earthquakes, tsunamis, or tornadoes are created by God's hand. Instead, we are better at understanding the natural, scientific principles which spawn such natural events. We no longer hold to the early belief that illness or being differently abled is a curse or a result of sin. Instead, we have learned about concepts like germs, genetics, contagion, mutation. This relatively new grasp of science does not invite us to jettison God, but it does call us to reconsider some of our understandings of our faith and God. Recently, you may have heard of a minister in Louisiana who has continued to hold in-person services. He was just quoted by the LA Times saying, "This is an extreme test brought on us by the spirit of the Antichrist and the mystery of lawlessness. What good is church in an hour of peril if church craters and caves into the fears and the spirits of torment in our society?" He continues to meet with his 1,000+ member church in person and claims his laying of hands on them will protect them. Now, while I applaud the prayer and the request for protection by God, it is foolhardy and dangerous to think that we can flout or somehow are not covered by the scientific principles of virus transmission, and to consider that we in any way, shape, or form know or can control God in this world. I wish it were that easy. Wanting to believe that God's ways are understandable feels comforting, but it's wrong. It is a great temptation to believe that bad things only happen to people who deserve it, that bad things can be prevented by prayer and purity. that bad things are God's way of teaching us or stretching us. This kind of thinking lays bare our desire to understand the ununderstandable, to control our Maker, and in essence to become God ourselves. It is built on the premise that we can understand God's ways and can somehow, therefore, control God's self. It puts God under us instead of us under God. Sadly, such beliefs can lead to shame and blame and guilt and persecution and marginalization, and even things like expulsion from communities, physical attacks, and institutionalization. We do not fully understand why bad things happen in this world. We do know, though, that some actions have natural consequences. We do know that some things are merely accidents. We do know that some things are just part of a natural order that is unaffected by the needs of human beings. And we do know that we have the capacity to make bad things better and bad things worse. Our brains seek understanding in the midst of such chaos, but sometimes things just are the way they are. Sometimes misfortune is just misfortune, and it's nobody's fault, nor does it reveal anyone's interior flaws. In the Bible, there are several stories of bad things happening to so-called good people. One of the most powerful comes in the book of Job. This book is not a work of nonfiction. It is not a biography, although it reads like one. Instead, it's a theological work that seeks to answer the very questions that we are struggling with today. Do bad things happen because we've done something wrong? Do bad things happen because we need to be taken down a few pegs, or because we need to learn something? It wonders about the causation of such bad things and asks what our response should be when bad things do happen. Job, the main character, is considered a righteous man. He is considered a person who does justly and loves kindness and walks humbly with God. Of course, in typical biblical fashion, his goodness is shown to us through words and is also demonstrated by his prosperity. One day, though, the story goes, that El Satan, the adversary, and God are talking about the world. And Satan basically says, the only reason that Job loves you is because you take care of him and you watch over him. God refutes this premise and responds, no, Job is righteous because Job is righteous. He would be equally devoted to me if I had given him nothing. El Satan says, yeah, sure, let's see about that. And this becomes the premise of the book. God gives El Satan permission to torment Job, to see what happens. Thus, poor Job loses every bit of comfort and is even afflicted with multiple forms of pain. In it all, Job stays devoted to God. As Job grieves and suffers, several friends come to console him. But instead of consolation, each basically tells Job why he deserves what is happening to him, and that he has no real reason to complain. In the end, God comes to Job and says, I am bigger than you. My time frame is longer than yours. There is no point in trying to understand. Just know that I am here with you and working out my purposes in ways that are beyond your understanding. One of the points of this book is to understand that we can't understand God and that it is the task of a fool to even try to. When we can let go of our security blanket God and allow for the possibility that God does not cause bad things, but instead that they happen for reasons unknown to us, then we can more fully embrace and understand Emmanuel, the concept that God is with us. Harold Kushner says, forced to choose between a good God who is not totally powerful or a powerful God who is not totally good, the author of the book of Job chooses to believe in God's goodness. And the beauty of this view, says Kushner, is that if God is a God of justice and not of power, then God can be on our side when bad things happen to us. And I think we see this compassionate side of God through the life of Jesus and the gift of the Holy Spirit. God saw the pain and trouble in the world, and so God emptied God's self into human form. God came here to be with us and to participate in life, to experience the joys and the heartaches, to feel love and hatred, and to be with us in the struggle and the suffering. He died trying to teach us to love each other. He died trying to teach us that we are sometimes complicit with these powers of evil, and that sometimes we make bad things worse. And he encouraged us in new ways to reach out, to uphold, and to uplift one another. During Jesus' life, he tried to demonstrate how we can make the struggle better, both for ourselves and for everyone around us. God sent Jesus and the Spirit to comfort us and to teach us a better way. In these actions, it is clear that God is not impartial to pain or hurt or suffering. And God repetitively makes it clear through our scriptures that God shows preference for the downtrodden, for the widow, for the orphan, for the impoverished. If God was the cause of all these things, wouldn't God just take them away? It's unfortunate when people perceive God as a causation of bad, even if they say it is because God is teaching them a lesson. Because what does that say about God? How could we love a God who has been blind to the Holocaust, or taught lessons through hunger and disease and death? When we see God in this role, then it is very easy to turn away from God. If we can, though, release our need to understand the why, then we can see God as the comforter, as the gatherer, the gentle, compassionate one who calls us all beloved. Then we can more easily gather in God's lap in times of trouble. If we can do that, then we are less likely to blame others or ourselves or God for things that are beyond our control. Then it might also be more likely that we will take responsibility for those things which we can control. Theologian Dorothy Soleil was once asked, "Where was God during the Holocaust?" She responded, "He was with the victims." As we are faced with difficult times that stretch our understanding of our faith, we need to sit in the discomfort and not jump to simplistic answers. We need to take responsibility for our own human actions. We need to make space for the inexplicability of bad. We need to allow for a universe that God founded on scientific principles. Kushner says, "The God I believe in does not send us the problem. He gives us the strength to cope with the problem." Kushner and Soleil push us to think about what we do and how we react when these bad things happen. And Dorothy Soleil is quoted as saying, "The question we should ask is not where does the tragedy come from, but where does it lead to?" In this current time, I have been so reassured to see that while we are physically separated, We are coming together in whole new ways. That in times where we are isolated from one another, people are reaching out, checking in on one another, putting themselves even in harm's way, and finding ways to share resources. This shows us God is with us. And when we are with God, then all is well. Good or bad, all is well. Perhaps one day we will understand the workings of God and the universe. But that's not really what faith is all about, is it? Until that time, may God be with each of us and with our siblings around the world. May we all know God in a way that allows us to clamber into God's arms in times of trouble. Amen. And so, recognizing that God is revealed to us through a wider creation, we offer this final blessing to one another. And so I invite you, like I have the past couple of weeks, lift up your arms, face them toward whatever screen or phone that you are watching or listening or hearing this on, even if it's at a different time. God's time is not our time. And say this together. The love and affection of heaven be to you. The love and affection of the saints be to you. The love and affection of the angels be to you. The love and affection of the Son be to you. The love and affection of the moon be to you. Each day and night of your lives. Amen. And so we end our time here together. I invite you, as we have here, to put a light in your window, to remember that God is stronger than anything that can happen in the world. That light in the darkness can shine. And the beauty of that light is that others see it and they feel it. And even if they don't have the name to call it, they see that something special is happening there and they seek it out. So may the love that you feel for God, for Christ, and for the Holy Spirit well up in you. May it satisfy you. May it keep you calm. May it help you ease any anxieties that you feel. And with that strength, might you be propelled to send love into this world and into this universe, that it might be the cure for all that ails us. May God be with each of you until we come together again. Amen, and God bless.